Hi, my name is Mike Katz from rjGroner Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing.
Hi, I'm John Toohey. I'm also from rjGroner Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing.
And we're here today to talk about heating, cooling, and plumbing and tell you why we think this podcast is a good idea.
We should probably let our viewers know that this is our very first attempt at this podcast.
This is, and I have complete stage fright. I don't know about John, but so please excuse me if I run out of the room screaming at any point in time.
Oh, you're good with the crowd, Mike. You've always been good with the crowd. You got nothing to worry about.
So, what we really wanted to do with this podcast is we wanted to talk about how this company came to be, how long we've been in business, and why we think in the Pocono Northeast there's nobody better and nobody who can help you more than we can.
Sounds fair.
So a little bit about our history. There's two legs to our history. There's the family leg, and then there's the acquisition leg, so to speak. So as John knows, but for those of you out there listening, rjGroner Company started in 1929. So within a few short years, we're going to be approaching 100 years in business. But my family I'm the third generation, and what you can't see from this podcast, directly across the street from our office, where we're talking to you from, is what some people call a junkyard or a scrapyard. Today, a recycling center. But basically, my grandfather and my father and my uncle, they were in business in the junkyard. Anyway, from that, sometime around the end of the Second World War, they had all this surplus material they bought up from Army depots and so forth. And from that, they got a lot of pipe, and they decided, well, let's try the plumbing business. And that's how it really started. And from there, they branched out into heating and cooling, and it just grew from there. As far as the name, at that point in time, the name was D. Katz and Son. My grandfather, David, and his two sons, Ed and Cy. After that, I think it was in the early 60s, there was a downturn in the economy, and they basically only did commercial work back then, and they wanted to get into the residential market. And as John has heard this story over and over again, they bought rjGroner Company because they had been established since 1929, and they were strictly residential. And at some point, the junkyard was sold off. My father passed away, my uncle passed away, my grandfather passed away, and the name D. Katz and Sons went away, and we just kept the name rjGroner. So there's the history.
Good history.
It is.
I will say I've heard it many times. It's a fascinating story. So, and I thought I knew everything about you. So it was just your dad and your uncle? No other aunts, nothing?
No other aunts?
Yeah, so your grandfather, just your grandfather. You didn't have any other aunts or uncles, anybody else that was?
Had other aunts and uncles, but my aunt moved out of the area up to Massachusetts. She didn't have anything to do with the business. My uncle was, if you've ever seen the movie The Graduate, of course I'm, dating myself because probably a lot of our audience never heard of that movie. But anyway, in The Graduate, there's a scene where the guy who just graduated from college doesn't know what he wants to do with his life, and one of the friends leans over to him and says, plastics, because back then that was a new and an amazing thing, like, the internet is now. But that's what my uncle did, my other uncle. He was into plastics, and he did very well for himself, but he never came into the family business.
Okay. Wasn't The Graduate, wasn't that Dustin Hoffman in that movie?
That was Dustin Hoffman.
Right, and he gets seduced by the older woman? Is that?
That's true.
Look at that. All right.
Well, you remember that.
I do remember that.
Wow.
So there you go.
Amazing.
I thought you were going to tell me that was your life story.
No. Okay. We're not going down that road, are we?
Fair enough.
Okay.
All right. So back to business.
So, now that you know a little bit about our history, and, let me talk a little bit about our more current history. About 20 years ago, I think it's actually 19 to be exact, I hired this man,
Yep.
John Toohey. And John came in as a service technician. It wasn't too long after that. I always think it was a few months. John says it was a couple of years. He became the service manager very quickly. And after that, I saw so much potential in you that I decided that you were going to be the operations manager. And today, John pretty much runs the day-to-day operation of rjGroner, which is now a close to 50-employee business that we cover, as I said before, the Pocono Northeast. And very lucky guy, me.
Well, both of us.
That he came along.
So
thank you for that, by
it's,
the way.
It's rare. Well, thank you. It's rare to find a boss, an owner that is as generous and as good as you. And I'm not just saying that for to please the crowd, but I had several. So to talk a little bit about my past, I came basically from working in the field for fuel oil companies. I was a service guy. I was a service manager for a company in upstate New York. When I left there to relocate to the Poconos, I never wanted to be a service manager again. Just wanted to be left alone out in the field. And lo and behold, that wasn't meant to be. I will say, though, that I had interviewed for several other companies in the area of the Poconos, and you were my last, or my second to last stop. And when I met you and we had a chance to sit down in this very room, actually, and talk, I knew you were the guy I wanted to work for here in the Poconos. And that was a major life change for me, coming from another state to relocate to Pennsylvania and start all over again, basically. And here we are now, doing a podcast, almost 20 years later.
It's incredible.
It is.
But one of the things we'd like to do with the podcast, and you and I can talk about this and see where you think we should go, we'd like to have this podcast become where people can go, call in during the week, and then we can talk about it when we do the show, what their problems are. Because that's what, as far as I'm concerned, that's what we do. And that's why we've been so successful. We solve problems. As I tell all the guys that work here, the guys that work out in the field, you're the heroes. You go into somebody's home, and every single day, you're solving a problem for the homeowner. So you're a hero every day. It's a great job.
Truly is.
And unfortunately, for anyone who's in business in the trades, it's really tough to get young people to think about going in the trades instead of going to college. But there are colleges, too, that do teach the trades. But we have so many people here that went through the local MCTI, the Monroe County Technical Institute, that are here for years and have shown us that, you really don't need a college education. You go through a VOTEC school or a junior college with those kind of classes, and you come here and we give you all the training you need.
Yeah, we do invest a lot in training.
We do.
Just because we want the best for our customers. So, and it has been an incredible, well, let me rephrase that. The guys we have, the team that we have, has been with us for a long time.
Yes,
and
they have.
their skill set is just, as far as we're concerned, and of course we're going to be biased, the best in the area. So,
and I agree.
True story. So, we.
The funny thing, I'm going to tell you a little funny thing about John and I. Okay, the reason John and I get along so well, and the reason it works so well as a team, is because I am the plotter. I am the guy who, I will look under every rock. I will go out on the internet and check everything I can possibly look at before I make a decision. I talk to John about something, and the next day it's been put into place.
Whether
so we're completely
good or
different.
bad, it was put in
Whether
place.
good or bad.
Yep.
Yeah. I turn around and go, what happened? I just started looking into whether this is a good idea or not, and he's already running with it. So, we are very different in that respect, but it all works out very well. I'll give you a perfect example. We have been talking about for a while, looking into training for our guys with this virtual reality thing. And I was like, I don't know, it's a big investment. Does it really work? And I'm looking into it, talking to other companies that have it and companies who didn't do it. And so I went on vacation for 4 days. And I came back and we have it now.
There you go.
So John just picked up and ran with it.
I don't know why these things happen when you go away. It's still a mystery to all of us.
I gotta stop going away. This is crazy. But it's another thing that I think we do better than anybody. And I'm not just trying to blow our own horn here. Training, education. I mean, John and I are, on such the same page when it comes to this. We invest tons in it. We send our employees all over the country to get whatever we think is the best. They've been to Texas, they've been to Alabama, they've been to Ohio, and now we have it right here where we have this virtual training, and it's working out.
Yeah, it definitely
very
takes
well.
it to another level. So it gets that ability for these guys to get so in detail with the problems. I tell you a quick little anecdote. When I was coming up through the VOTEC, and now we're going back, I'm not going to date myself, but a long time ago, they were telling us that at some point in the future, you'd be able to plug a computer into an HVAC system, and it would tell you everything that's wrong with it, and you'd be able to fix it right then and there. The reality of where we are now is light years beyond that. What you need to know as a technician, how you need to go about finding what the problem is, the diagnostics, no laptop helps you out in that. As a matter of fact, it's almost like having to crack open your iPhone to figure out what's wrong with the system, because the electronics, the controls, the computer chips, it is just so advanced that promise was a false promise back in the day. So no matter what we do, we still need to diagnose, we still need to have guys that know and understand and just continually train, because this information just updates and updates and updates.
I know, it's incredible. Things that we just guessed about a year ago, that there was a possibility that this could be. Within a year, the manufacturers come up with things that are even light years advanced from what we even thought we could do.
Yep.
And with that being said, that's where the training comes in, because as these advances in technology take over our industry, our guys need to be updated all the time on what's going on out there and what's new and how to service it, whether it's a brand change or it's just the same brand, but all this new technology built into the systems, they need to know.
Yeah. And because they need to know, we make the investments. We have the best guys on the market.
We do.
So.
I've been in business now for, I'm going to show my age, a long time, a lot longer than you. I started way back when I was in my 20s. Actually, I grew up in the business, so when I was 13, I was breaking into the back lot of my father's business at night and driving his trucks around the lot, So I've been doing things since I was 13 when it has to do with this business, not just driving trucks. I was a guy who put all the plumbing fittings back in the bins when the guys would come back from a job. And that's the way my father wanted it. He wanted me to learn from the bottom up, and I'm glad he did. But now, jump forward to today, and with all the training we do, all the places we send these guys for education, still, amazingly, they line up at your door and my door with questions, right?
Well,
you can't change it.
You can't, and you and I know this unfortunately, from our age, I guess. Experience, okay? What you've learned over the years compared to, it's kind of like watching, we call these guys YouTube mechanics, right? You go out, you try and watch something. I do it too. Watch a YouTube video, try and figure out how to fix something. The problem with those videos, one little key component that this guy knew from working on this thing for the last 20 years, he forgot to mention in the video. Now you're trying to do the repair. You're watching this video. You can't get this problem solved. You're stuck. It's a nightmare. Well, what's the difference? The difference is he knew from years of experience, trial and error. The problem was he forgot to mention it. So then you're stuck back at square one. And we see this across the industry. Doesn't matter what you're working on. That experience, there's something about knowing. What would you pay for experience, right? Imagine you have a problem, right? And you got, I don't know, you had 4 or 5 different companies come in there, right? And each time you're paying X amount of hundreds of dollars to get it fixed. Then you have this one guy who's been in the business for a long time or has been very well educated. He comes in and within 5 minutes he solves your problem. But then he hands you like a $1,000 bill and you're like, you were only here for 5 minutes. Well, what were you paying for? His experience. He knew what to do.
His education.
His frustration that you have as a customer, as a homeowner. Yeah, it hurt to pay that, but it's so hard to find that guy who finally solved your problem. That's what sets us apart at rjGroner Company. Not that I want to keep just promoting our company, but it's what I like to do. So
I know.
It's my passion.
Funny story that I always, think about. When they do come to us, they'll walk into your office, and if I happen to be in your office at the time and they ask a question, and it's a technical question because, let's be honest, I've been out of the field for 25 years. And you're more involved with the day-to-day operation. You know more of the new technologies. And they come in and they ask a question. And I just always picture your face and their face when I come up with the right answer. Why is that?
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
So
that I can still pull one out and come up with the right solution.
You still have it.
I do.
All that experience, all that knowledge, it's tremendous.
So we really think that between the two of us, we can solve problems, we can answer questions, we can do things for the general public. They don't even have to be our customers. Just let us know what your problems are, and with this podcast, we're hoping we can solve it for them. And even if we don't get one person to call in during the week and ask a question that we can answer on our podcast, we know what the issues are.
And we'll pick topics.
And we know some of the issues that come up here with the phone calls, with the customer questions and so forth. And we can add those in. We don't have to, rely on people calling in, so to speak.
Yeah, we definitely plan to pick a topic and discuss it because, we could talk about ourselves for days and weeks and
That's
hours.
true.
But
Yes.
I think we're going to pass on that for a little bit, and we're really going to, try and just help the community at large out there. And then have a lot of fun while we're doing it at the same time. So, cool. We've gotten this far. So now, what's next?
Well, I think what's next is maybe we should talk about one of the bigger problems that we find in our industry that our customers are facing. I think the biggest thing that's coming down the road shortly, within I'd say 6 months, correct me if I'm wrong, is that in the air conditioning end of it, whether it's a heat pump that does air conditioning, whether it's a ductless system that hangs on your wall, no matter what it is, if it has refrigerant in it, once again, government has decided that we're going to cut the carbon emissions from the refrigerants, and we're going to change refrigerants once again. So what does that mean for the customer?
Well, the big change is going to be a completely new refrigerant. Now, you and I have lived through this a couple of times. The big difference with this refrigerant is once it's mandated and in full play, there will be no substitutes for the existing 410A. There will be no drop-ins that they let you use. So keeping a customer going on a system that has the 410A refrigerant versus the new 454Bs that are out there, it's going to get expensive for our customers. And unfortunately, we don't have control over that. And the market conditions are going to have control over that, supply and demand. They're going to stop the manufacturing of 410A. Now, 410A refrigerant has been on the market for, I think we've been going 20 years with 410A. And that was the big change to lower the emissions and
Right,
lower
from
the
R22.
global warming. And there's a term for that, and we'll figure it out in our next podcast.
And I don't want to get too technical here. So for those listening in, let's just say refrigerant A, refrigerant B, refrigerant C. And what's happened over the years is everything except for automobile refrigerants for their air conditioning systems was refrigerant A. And then climate change happened. And the emissions were destroying the atmosphere. So the government came up with, we need a better refrigerant that doesn't harm the atmosphere as much. So they came up with refrigerant B. So obviously, as refrigerant B came into effect, it was more expensive, but as it got in use more and more, it got cheaper. But refrigerant A now became very expensive.
Yep.
Because the government didn't want you using it anymore, and they weren't manufacturing it anymore. Well, then we went from refrigerant B to refrigerant C because they thought that wasn't good enough. So then the same thing happened over and over again. Now I think we're on refrigerant D at this point, the fourth iteration of refrigerants. And now this one is doing the same exact thing. The equipment is now going to get more expensive because the manufacturers have to redo everything, their coils, their compressors, everything about a system is going to have to change for this new refrigerant. But that not only becomes more expensive, but refrigerant C, which is going away, becomes a fortune.
Yeah.
And, they're planning it this way because let's say you have a system that has refrigerant C now, and we come in and say, oh, we can fix that, but it needs a few pounds of refrigerant for us to fix the problem. It's going to cost you $1,000 just for the refrigerant. It's crazy what happens in our industry. And we have to juggle all of this.
Yes.
And we have to do the right thing by our customer. So it's very hard to say, wow, why is this repair costing so much? And have to explain all of this about refrigerants over and over and over again. And that's why we think something like this podcast could help get more of that knowledge out there to the general public and the local community so that they understand what's going on and why this is happening.
It's a good starting point, that's for sure. So,
Right.
and it is so immense, just this one topic alone, that we can certainly cover it under a lot of different podcasts down
Right.
the road.
And a lot of different issues that come
Yeah.
into play with it.
So, Mike, this is the end of our very first podcast. I know we're going to look back maybe a year from now and go, my God, that this was just absolutely awful. But these are how things progress. The one thing I want to do before I sign off is let people know if they've got questions that they want answered, and or any thoughts they want to express, how they can get a hold of us. They can either call us on our phone number, 570-421-7260, leave us a message, talk to one of our staff, just tell them, hey, listen, I heard the podcast and I got a question or I got a comment. They can reach us on our website. They can go through our website and just hit our contact page, reach us that way.
www.rjgroner.com.
You're really showing your age now, but rjgroner.com, absolutely. Or they can text us.
They can. And that number, 421-7260, is the same number to text us at. And all I want to say, John, is yes, to all of our listeners out there, if we get any, this time, do it right. Call RJ Groner.